Today we are going to do Proxmox versus Unraid performance testing. It's not going to be a huge wide variation of performance tests, but I'm going to take one game, one server, and we are going to run a VM, and we're going to benchmark that game on both VMs, and we're going to see if we see any performance difference. But the only thing we're going to be changing is the hypervisor. So I like Unraid as an all-in-one solution, but I'm interested to see if there's any performance benefits to Proxmox. So now we're going to go over the server specs. So let me get in here and we will go over the server specs. So like I said, I took all those other drives, I put them all not in any arrays, not in any ZFS pools, because I don't want any other overhead running a ZFS pool or anything like that. I just have my one drive right here, the SSD. Now on Proxmox, this is where the Proxmox server is going to live. In Unraid, we have a USB key where it lives. That is right here. So this is just going to sit idle. I'm going to put the VMs on this ZFS pool. This is 4 1 terabyte Intel SSDs, and they are in okay shape. They have a lot of hours on them. Let's see if I can show you guys that. Yeah, this one's not too bad. This one's got 4 years, and they all got reallocated sectors and stuff. But I have wrote and read to each drive and to every single bit with SpinRite, and they've all passed no problem. So, and they all are giving me full performance. So that's what we're going to be using today. So we're going to be using this array of drives. Let's spin up this array of drives, and I will show you the rest of the server specs. So, like I mentioned before, I added in a second CPU, and we are running 2 Intel Xeon E5 2690 V4s. This is one of my favorite V4 CPUs of the E5 series for its high clock speeds and good core count. They're 14 core, 28 threads each, so that gives us a total of 55 or 56 threads to play with. We got 256 gigs of RAM of ECC DDR4 2400 mega transfers. That's also the fastest RAM this CPU can handle. So this is going to be the test bench. The GPU we are going to be using is going to be an A2000 6 gig card, and we are going to be doing all of our testing at 1080p because we're not doing really benchmark testing for the GPU here. We're just going to be doing testing on the VM and running the game at 1080p over Parsec. So I'm going to go through and start setting up this VM. Okay, so I am inside the Windows VM on Unraid, and as you guys can see here, we have 16 virtual processors, we have 20 gigs of RAM. Where's that at here? Available, well, 20 up here. We have an SSD, quote unquote, and we have our A2000. So we are going to start off with the Cinebench run. So let's do this and see what 16 cores gets in multi-score on Cinebench. I know this, I use R23, I know there's newer versions, but this is just the one that I'm more used to, so I'm using this one. And so we're going to do Cinebench, and then we're going to run Shadow of the Tomb Raider and look at the benchmark chart after the benchmark and see if we see a major difference between Unraid and Proxmox for performance. So let's see what this one does for CPU. Okay, so as you guys can see here, with the 8 core 16 threads, we got a 6589. Not too bad for a 10-year-old CPU. So let's go and see what we get in the benchmark of the game. So as you can see, we got 69 frames on that average. We did 10,877 frames. Down here, the minimum CPU game and render 4988, the max 104 and 218, the average 72 and 123, and the 95% 51 and 92. So now let's go over to the Proxmox and see what we get there. So we're back in the VM, but this time it is on Proxmox instead of Unraid. And as you guys can see here, I still have 16 virtual processors, still have 20 gigs of RAM, I still have an SSD for a hard drive, and an A2000. So we are going to start off with Cinebench again, and we will see how Cinebench does compared to the score on Unraid. See if there is a difference in there. Holy cow. So this is a huge difference versus the first run. The first run is right here at 6589 on Unraid, and we scored a 10,915. Better than an i9 8th gen CPU. That's wild. I thought there was going to be a little bit of a difference, but 40%, over 40% difference is insane. Dang. That's a lot of performance you're leaving on the table with Unraid. And what's crazy is I think Unraid is the best all-in-one solution. Maybe this gap differs with different CPUs, but with the old E5 26 series, 26,000 series, 40% hit. Let's see what the game looks like. Let's look at both results here. This one got an average of 69 on Unraid with 10,877 frames rendered. Now on Proxmox, we got 12,513 frames rendered with an average score of 80 FPS. This is massive, massively improved. Only 28 GPU bound here, 42 GPU bound here. Okay, used got 59 frames at our minimum here at 96 versus the 4988, 144 and 315, 91, 160, 62, 155. So we literally saw frame jumps. Massive frame jumps too. 10 frames higher in the minimums to 40 plus, 40 to 100 in the max. That's insane. 62 to 92, or 62, so that's 11 to like 25 or something, 23. It's wild. Now I don't know why the GPU got higher here versus here, but I feel like overall this is a better experience. So there you have it. There is a massive performance difference between Unraid VMs and Proxmox VMs. Now Proxmox only does VMs, so it's not a total solution. Like Unraid is a total solution. But this is wild. If you're doing mostly VMs, which I do have some machines that do mostly VMs, and not every machine does Docker containers and everything. This is a huge win because in some workloads, I'm seeing up to 40% more horsepower. It was like 42% more in the Cinebench score from going from Unraid to Proxmox. So I think that's super interesting, and the more you know. So I don't know if it carries on between all CPUs, but the E5 series definitely is better to run on Proxmox if you can. So, all right, till next time, guys.